Hello and welcome to the Swim Brief. I am joined as usual by the coach who was not named in, we're going to get to this later, an article about Phoenix Swim Club coach Garrett McCaffrey resigning as one of the legendary coaches that has coached there from the Pacific Northwest. Joel Rawlings, how are you?
Hey, great, Chris.
How does it feel to not be a legendary coach of Phoenix Swim Club?
Oh, I'm so not legendary in so many things in my own home that that I'm okay. I'll be able to survive this one, I think. Yeah.
And from Houston, Texas, the Speedo impresario, spending all day talking about the sales of tech suits. I got some people on my team who need a tech suit fast. Eric, can you help with that?
Then they need to get in the water and swim fast with it.
Oh, so the suit doesn't swim for you.
No. If they get in it and do better, then the tech suit will be fast.
This is okay. I didn't understand that, and I don't think
it's in the marketing material I sent you.
That changes the value proposition a little bit. I thought the suit was actually gonna, move. Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay. On today's show, we are going to talk about some college swimming movement. We're going to talk about Jeff Poppell leaving Florida to become the combined head coach of South Carolina and Florida's subsequent move to reunite their programs. We're going to talk about some of the highlights from Mission Viejo. Things are getting spicy with just about 2 months to go till trials. And finally, we're going to finish. We're going to have a little bit of fun. We're going to talk about the top 5 reasons swimmers are not swimming at your swim practice. And I we can only speak from experience here, the swim practices we've attended. So I want to turn first to this move because I think it surprised a lot of people. Jeff Poppell leaving UF to take over as head coach of South Carolina. Eric, where did you have Jeff on your rumor list for taking? Maybe I got to go back and look at the Swim Swam article about who did they even have Jeff Poppell on that list?
I don't even think so. I'm kind of surprised that even that would happen. Like, I get wanting to go to maybe a combined program. That's something that's on your list of goals. It's a Division I program, but you're leaving U of F, you're leaving, a very storied program with resources, and not to say South Carolina doesn't have those, but there's got to be something there. Maybe he loves low country. I don't know. But
typical that you would say he's moving for the food. He loves that low country boil. That's the key, and you can't get that.
That's how you would get me. Like, if the lateral move salary, if I can be close to the food, then
that's right.
I'll do it.
Yeah, that's true. Better food culture. I'm sorry, Gainesville, Florida, but definitely better food culture in Columbia. Joel, do you think what do you think his chances of success at South Carolina have been? They had a period where when Moody took over there, they were at the bottom of the SEC. They had some years where they did a little bit better than that, and then they sort of regressed back to the mean. What do you think his chances of success are?
I don't know. I don't want to be like one of those guys just throwing stones from his mom's basement here. But it's like you've got all these other established places, all these places coming up and going. What's going to separate you out? You're not. It's in college swimming. So much is about marketing. It's about recruiting. And so you see in Virginia and things like that, you can swing it in a couple of years. The turnaround time is so much faster now, it seems, than it's ever been before. I just don't see it. Though I just, again, you're like, you wonder anytime there's moves like this, like Eric was saying, you're moving kind of laterally and things. Obviously, what are the moving pieces? We always think of it in terms of like if it's a football coach or a basketball coach, it's about winning percentages. Are they going to do this? Are they from a coaching tree? This is one of those things where there's so many things that go on about behind the scenes for college swimming coaches that have nothing to do with winning. There's so many positions where it's like there's probably some great coaches out there, but they're like, man, we're going to go with this guy. Like the people that do the hiring and firing in college swimming, it's again, it's not like they really know anything about swimming all the time. Right. And for him to get the Florida job, that might have nothing to do at all with Poppell. Have everything to do, obviously, with Nesty. Like, well, if you're going to get a significant raise in swimming, it's through combining the programs. And obviously, the thing that's a shame in a sense is when you take two programs and make it in one. It's always going to be a guy. Nothing against anything like what Nesty's done. He's an incredible coach. He's doing amazing things. But again, there's so few women head coaches and almost none that are going to be in a combined program.
Right. One thing that, you can't separate this from the Nesty decision. And this is
right.
Pure speculation alert. I have no inside information about what I'm about to say, but it strikes me that the announcement of Nesty becoming the combined coach came very quickly within a week afterwards. And I wonder if Jeff Poppell didn't have some sense that was maybe something they were considering down the line, and that he didn't change jobs before, that decision was made for him, basically. Like, that Nesty was so successful, and I think he was successful at University. Again, that's speculation. My opinion is that he was doing a very good job at University of Florida. The first year he took over, they had no NCAA scorers. Right. And so they've been building back steadily. It's just the men's program was in a better place when that transition happened, and they've continued to do better. And I wonder if, on the other end, it wasn't seeming like some kind of like inevitability to Nesty returning to control of that, and he saw the opportunity. Also, just look back in the time of his career trajectory. He coached at Arkansas, which of course is a just women's only program, and I think he had, for these teams that are in power conferences where you just have such strong programs at the top that have proven year in, year out that they're going to be in contention. They're always going to have a strong conference team. I always think maybe the sort of the first step in the progression mightn't be like building slowly depth up to that point, but more sort of having that breakthrough. I mean, that's what South Carolina did under Moody when Mark Bernardino was an associate head coach there. They developed this incredible distance program, and they were scoring at NCAAs, and it gave them a little boost. Poppell did the same thing in his time at Arkansas. He had Yi-Ting Sao. People remember that name, who was doing really well. He had some other athletes that were really, really sort of top level SEC athletes. So I wonder if he doesn't see a blueprint to replicate some of that at South Carolina in the short term. And maybe that's the bar for success in at least in the near future there at South Carolina.
Yeah, and none of us have like inside information, but I mean, that's just kind of how colleges will work. Is if they can avoid a buyout, they can let a coach know, at a certain point your contract will not be renewed, and that gives them a heads up. They can start to look, and like you said, it's a week. All of a sudden, you're like, Anthony Nesty, we're going to combine both programs. Right. It's probably one of those deals again, a financial thing. So again, nothing what doing on the women's side, but if we want to lock somebody in, is this something that we need to do as far as the salaries and things? And so obviously the university saves money in like one less head coach salary. So they basically cut that salary in half and offer that up. And then you can bring in another assistant.
Philosophically, Eric, I want to put this to you. How do you feel about recombining programs? What's your opinion on that?
It looks like, to me, it's going to take the right kind of mentality by the current staff and the right hires coming through to really make this work. We're not behind the scenes. We don't know the camaraderie on deck, pre-COVID, but even during COVID and during some of that time, what kind of interaction there was between the two programs, because there's a lot of separate programs where they never see each other, or it's simply in passing, or it's during recruiting weekends when big kids are coming on campus. So I think there's a lot of potential for some very good things. I'm thinking about what's going on in NC State, what's going on in Virginia. Like, what's it going to look like in a couple of years down the road? Is Nesty's philosophy, is how he operates, is that going to translate to success on the women's side? Or is it going to be a matter of he's going to have that right associate head who's going to essentially guide that women's program, and he oversees it from more of a hands-off perspective, but coming in for major decisions and major recruits? And hearing what we heard about what the men's team was doing in terms of the sharing part and the vulnerability aspect, the fact that that's being brought in on the men's side is super positive as it is, but it just gives you a window into that willingness and understanding of how important that is. And I think that's going to do him a lot of good, because that's going to be more than likely well received on the women's side of the program, that they're gonna want to have that avenue and have that opportunity to talk, because it's just how our animal brains seem to work. So I'm excited to see what happens down there, and if it translates to a gigantic juggernaut of a combined program. And it would be great to see combined program in the top 3 on both sides. Like, can they do it? Because that's really, really pretty tough.
I'm going to come the other direction. I hate it. I hate it when teams go from split to combined. And one of the reasons is the split programs, I feel, can be, in general, a more sustainable model for coaches. I just see that the administrative blob of running a combined program seems to be really overwhelming in many cases. And also, it takes a lot of, the administrative part of it seems to take a lot of great coaches and turn them into administrators. Like, and that's very frustrating for me to watch from afar. I understand why people would want to do it. Like, I understand why an athletic director, Joel did the math on that end, would want to do it. I understand why a coach would want to do it. Who's going to turn down a promotion? I mean, that's what it is. You get a promotion, you get more money. Like, so I understand why everybody's doing it, or people are doing it in this situation. And I do think that beyond that, Nesty, he has an interesting challenge, because I wonder, during this time when they've been split, I wonder how much his men's team has grown to view the women's team as just a pure other, and not as people that are on the same team. And, especially since they've been so much more successful, he's going to probably have to deal with a lot of men on that team sort of being like, who are wary of the fact that, like, is the women's team that is not as competitive as we are at the SEC level or NCAA level, are they going to take resources away from us when we're doing great? And I think that's something he's going to have to be very proactive and communicate about and lead on early on, so that it doesn't just so it doesn't sow conflict between his two teams. Because I've been on many teams where there's that disparity between the two, and those were combined programs. But even in those situations, there was plenty of conflict between the men's and women's team based on, if those teams aren't sort of like dead even in terms of competitiveness. So I think that's going to be a huge challenge for him. I don't know what you think, Joel.
I think you're absolutely right. Again, you don't even really know the challenges ahead of you, even though he's coached for a long time. Everyone's like, well, these kids swim combined programs their whole lives, won't be a big deal. But like you said, it takes you off the deck a lot more. There's a lot more paperwork. I mean, you can have however many NCAA champions, but if you screw up a little piece of paperwork and bring the NCAA in, you're gone. It's not like being a basketball coach where you have a whole list of things going on.
Unless you're Augie Bush, when somehow still has a job.
All right, I guess you get into certain last names, but yeah, that's the thing is, again, all of a sudden you've got something that's working so well, but again, how are you going to go? You know what? You come home. They've offered me this big bump in pay, honey, but I was like, things are working well. I don't think I'll do it. It's like, you did what?
What?
So you're right. I think it's one of those things where you end up taking yourself off deck unless you can figure out a way, again, to have someone do the administrative stuff. But I would think, again,
he's got to have the right hire.
Yeah,
he's got to be able to find the right people.
A lot of different levels, to take work off of your plate. You're exactly right, Eric. And then I've always been thinking, like, how many combined programs really are, like you said, at the same level on both ends? It always seems like once you start feeding one side, the other side starts starving a little bit. And there's so many things that go on behind the scenes, behind just training. Like you said, is there going to be resentment where all of a sudden, like, I used to be able to get this much access to my coach, and now I'm not getting this kind of access.
Right.
It's a lot of minefields that you have to navigate. I'm sure, obviously, he'll do a great job. He seems very organized, does everything. But again, they had something that's working really well, and now we're going to kind of, I don't know about that. But there's no money like SEC money, and it spends pretty well.
All right, let's transition to Mission Viejo. We had Pro Swim Series out there. You guys were live streaming it while I was shopping for houses. And so you watched a lot more of it than I did. Eric, give me some of your personal highlights. What did you see out of the meet that you thought, like, wow, this says a lot about what's going to happen at trials in 2 months?
I was really happy to be able to watch the swimming. First off, I found a way to actually some kind of subscription or something I'm paying for already was able to connect me to watch finals in the middle of the day. So being able to watch swimming like that live was fantastic. Some of the swimming with, the races within the races was actually really quite great. Caleb full disclosure, I work for Speedo. So we had a couple of athletes that weekend that had really great meets. Yep. Dressel's doubles were impressive. The 2 free 1 fly double. He's got to be gunning for a relay spot. He's got to get a fast enough time. So when he gets into camp, they're going to maybe have him do another time trial and see how much faster he can go. But just seeing him perform those doubles, do better than he did earlier in the series was really great. Abby Weitzel looked strong. It was fun to be able to watch, and taking them for their word with how they thought their races went. I haven't been able to get back to the video, but during finals they showed a head-on shot of her freestyle start in the 50, and it was so dynamic. Like it looked a bit Dressel-esque. Like there was definitely power coming from the legs, getting out over the water, and it showed in the first 15 of that race. A couple other things were a little bit iffy. A little concerned about Shields being able to close races. I don't know what's going on with his training, where he's at, but just cratering at the end of that 2 fly is just having an off weekend. I don't know. Michael Andrew, he's got to be able to figure out that last 50 because still going 30 points, still looking rough, but
does he
too much left?
Does he have to figure out that last fit? That's one of the most fascinating things to me is, does he actually have to figure out that last 50? Because I
think he will if he wants to be top 2. If he wants to be top 2 in Omaha, it's got to be 29.9. It can't be 30.4.
Now you're plagiarizing Braden Keith in the
comment
section.
I haven't even looked at that crap. he's got to go. He's got to be able to hold off Foster. He's going to have to be able to probably hold off Shane Casas, who is going to be, if he can keep it together at trial.
Here we go with the Shane Casas love. Yeah, here we go.
Yeah. But it's just the fact of the matter. Like if anybody is within any kind of reasonable distance of him, if he can't sort out that freestyle, they're just going to eat him up. But I am on the opposite coast, though. The same weekend, we saw two very fast young women destroy the 100 fly side by side in finals. That's going to make that 100 fly really interesting on the women's side, with Claire and Tori going 56s. Yeah, 56 low, 56 mid. Like, so.
Schustrom, she better get up those kick workouts. She's got to take her kick workouts to a whole nother level. She wants to hold on against some of these young swimmers coming. Yeah, I mean, I'm only pushing on the Andrew stuff because I think it's actually kind of interesting. I don't know how strong our IM is at the moment, like that 200 IM. I just we'll see in a couple of months if it's a little bit more competitive, but I'm not entirely unconvinced that a slight improvement by Michael Andrew from where he is right now won't be good enough to make the team. And so I don't know we'll see. Of course, I'm probably, I don't know. I'm probably still holding on to a little bit of Michael Andrew bias from my race pace days.
I hope he does qualify as another USRPT coach. I really do want to see him have great success in these 200s because he is stuck to his guns with the training style. So
yeah.
Joe,
what about you?
I'm hoping he goes vegan too, just because I want more articles. If he makes the team, I hope like a USRPT vegan makes the team, because that's all I need is nonstop blog articles about that kind of stuff. Oh my God. It would crush.
Talk about a shift. He's low carb, high fat, like all protein.
Okay, well, that's all I need though, is like more freaking articles. Again, if he makes it, that's great, but I don't want to hear all of a sudden all these other people see. Now we get. Also, we need what was that one thing from like 8 years ago? The swimming guy. Oh God, it's
having a senior moment, Joel, huh?
The TI. The total immersion guy.
Total immersion.
I need a total immersion vegan that does race pace training. Then all of a sudden, they'll just nonstop articles about that. That's all I really need. What I'm thinking with the swimming again is we're so married to the NCAA model and stuff like that. And all I ever get are kind of questions. And it's like, well, we're not going to have the distance swimmers and the international people then. So we got to have the 200s and below. But again, who are these relays going to be? Is Nathan Adrian going to be back for miracle swims on relays? Where are all the 100 freestylers then too? Because that's what we should be like knee deep in, I would think, with the NCAA model. So I guess back here, like what would be the thought in that? Who's, again, they're going to take 8, of course, but who's going to be the 4?
That's a question for Eric. I don't even know that.
That's throwing it down. Like,
it's tough. It looks really dicey after top 3. Like, what's going to happen there? Is that Zach Apple after his 100 free? If you saw his expression, none too pleased with his 49 low. You have 48s right now out of the other guys. Held had a best time in Alabama, which was in the 50 free, I should say. He had a really good 100 free and good 100 fly. We didn't even talk about Ledecky and the strong weekend she had. She looked good. Like the stroke looked powerful. Like everything was connecting well. She was under 4 minutes again. Like it was fun to see her like excelling in this meet. So
it'll be nice to see White healthy too. Like again, she always had kind of things towards the end where it was kind of interrupt some training, interrupt what she was doing. But yeah, I think the women's side, seems like it's going to be solid. But again, on the men's side, are we kind of relying on the the United States kind of, well, everything always seems to come together in Olympics for us. We'll keep on holding that umbrella.
I mean, look, the reason I'm scared to say anything is because I have been like maybe, I don't know, 3 or 4 Olympic cycles. I guess I wasn't writing about anything in 2004, but I was by 2008. I mean, I have been like doom and gloom. Oh man, this is where the U.S. is going to fall off. Like you
Every
can like
4 years.
look
like
back at my
clockwork.
blog archives, clockwork. I start freaking out about this stuff. And I go, oh my God, we don't have any sprint freestylers, you know, and then everything seems to be fine. So I don't know. Maybe Joel, maybe you're right, but I don't think I wouldn't have made a lot of money betting on that over my history writing about swimming. I would have lost a lot. So ever since the Australians refused to be smashed like guitars, you know, it's basically been a US romp, especially in relays. So yeah, I don't know. Oh, I guess the South Africans in 2004 too, but forget about that. That's just like a fluky thing. All right. Finally, let's talk about top 5 reasons your swimmer is, or somebody you're coaching is not swimming at swim practice. I've got my top 5 here. I know you guys, maybe you have some ones you want to insert yourselves. I wrote a blog post that hopefully people took as satire earlier this year that theorized that because
there's something the internet really does well is understand satire and sarcasm, especially if it goes to print format. But go ahead.
Right. That's right. That's right.
You keep on
it's
betting
always
wrong on the Olympics, but you're going to keep on putting your money on this horse. Good
That's
call.
right. I'm going to keep on writing satirical blog posts for the most humorless audience of people in the world, swim coaches. So, goggles broken. I would, the reason I bring up the blog post is I theorized that, the manufacturers like Speedo, Eric, are selling purposefully defective goggles to my swimmers such that there are multiple malfunctions over the course of every practice. And finally, I think that you're putting some kind of plastic, the polyethanol, whatever, in those goggles that has a diuretic effect. So not only do their goggles break, but they need to go to the bathroom frequently during the course of a 90-minute practice because of the diuretic effect of these cheap, easily breakable goggles. And I got to give my best goggle breaking story because this was at a meet actually. So it wasn't even at practice. I had a guy come up to me right before his race. He's freaking out. He said, does anybody have a spare pair of goggles? I just snapped the bungee strap of my goggles. And I just looked at him. I said, I'm not even mad. I'm impressed. Like, what kind of Hulk strength do you have that you snapped? I've never seen a bungee strap just like shear in half. Like, what was he doing? Incredible.
Hungry.
Stuff. Yeah. Hulk mad. This is a special one. We have very narrow lanes here. So you got to stop to let somebody else pass. If somebody's passing you, you can't let them just swim around. It's just the polite thing to do. That's another good reason to stop at practice, stopping to let somebody else pass. Of course, I mentioned the bathroom break. It makes me think back to my own youth. This is one of those, we walked uphill through the snow both ways kind of stories. But the first senior group that I swam on, we had 3-hour practice on Saturday and Sunday morning. And you were allowed 120 seconds in the middle of practice to go to the bathroom. And if you couldn't, like the whole team, and, we're talking about like 2 urinals and a stall for 20 of us. And if you didn't get it done in that amount of time, you were out of luck. But 4, equipment falling off, of course, those slippery, you got the slippery paddle, you got the slippery fin, you got that pull buoy that you just can't quite, maintain a connection to. And finally, my all-time favorite, the sitting on the wall while everybody else is swimming and insisting that you are the one that is done with the set and everybody else miscounted and is doing an extra one. What else? What do you guys got? Eric.
Go ahead, Joel. Oh, it's my turn?
No, we let your Joel go first.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Geez,
Sure.
The nice thing is, like, the farther I get removed, two things are happening. A, the more I reach into my closet to pull something out, the less likely I pull out something that's purple, much less purple, and a swimming shirt.
Right.
And B, like, I fail to remember a lot of the more ridiculous things. I remember, like, one time a kid, this is when I first started coaching high school. I was like, dude, you missed practice. Everything okay? And he's like, I was sitting home thinking, he's like, I'm not very good. And I thought one more practice wasn't going to make me good. And we just talked about, amazing self-awareness, and, sure, that'll probably help me go a long way. That's awesome. They figured that out so quickly, because he wasn't very good. The other thing I remember, one thing, not to turn this into something serious, I remember this one senior female athlete I had that they came to me, he's like, Joel, I'm really sorry. I don't know. Is it okay if I miss practice tomorrow? We've got a job fair coming in. Amazon's going to be there. All these other places. And I thought, this is ridiculous. She's way smarter than I am. She's a record holder. She's she's been here for 4 years, and she's asking a coach who's barely making minimum wage, can I go do that? And he's like, I think it's like, as coaches, like, we're trying to create leaders, and I'm having these people coming up asking them, like, dude, you're going to probably run a company someday, and your first thing is, I'm going to go ask permission to do something that's as necessary as this. This is ridiculous. How have we failed you in some way? It should be like, I'm a senior athlete. I know what I need to do. I'm an adult. I'm going to have to do X, Y, and Z, but I'm going to, try to make up for practice by doing this. It's like, again, I think it becomes kind of like what we've talked about before. This, as a coach, are you kind of like, they're facilitating what's going on, facilitating their career, or are you just going to be you want a bunch of lapdogs on your team where they're waiting, for the little treat to come their way. And that's kind of goes into, I started thinking of that when we go back to the idea of the combined programs, where, again, you're losing all these women coaches and women leaders. Where are they going to kind of look forward to? It's nice to have strong examples out there. And again, all the way through, except for their age group coach, all you're seeing are, a bunch of dudes making them a minimum wage, telling them what to do.
Tell them they can't go to the bathroom. Yeah.
You got 120 seconds. Enjoy.
Eric, what you got?
I do have a list of 5. I'll try to buzz through some of them. It was very rare, but it was the classic AM PM on oversleeping and setting the alarm clock for 6 p.m. instead of 6 a.m. So you get the kid frantically running into morning practice, be like, sorry, coach, AM, PM. And then you just kind of have to shrug your shoulders that you set an alarm, you just didn't check to see what you did. I had one, this is kind of a throwback to my college time. This is actually part of me, and I try not to get too detailed with anything, but I also had an athlete kind of dealing with the same thing. And the cleanest way I could say was that innate biological function clock. It happened every morning at the exact same time, and every morning at morning practice, I got yelled at, and I couldn't help it. Like, the body said it was time to go. It's time to go. So, like, it was just without fail, I'd be halfway down the deck running towards the men's locker room, and I just hear my name get screamed at me from behind, and then just raise my hands up as I'm running, and I can't help it. So I had an athlete relatively recently, where that was the issue. I've had forgot suit. It usually only takes once, because then the dry land workout that they had as a result of that in front of the entire team while they were swimming was the last time they forgot that suit, because it wasn't like debilitating, but it certainly wasn't great. And then the next 3 practices after that dry land workout, were awful. I've had some where the kids were actually just outside playing and just hanging out, just playing, and like you just gotta wrangle them back in. One of that same athlete that forgot the suit. One day I was just like, he's a senior in high school. He wants to do well. This is his last season. He's always kind of he wasn't really sure where he was at. And we had talked about his schedule being what it was and coming to practice and trying to get better, and just ask him, is like, hey, where were you yesterday? We talked about X, Y, Z. And he's like, honestly, coach, I just didn't want to go. And I was like, I appreciate your honesty. You're a senior. You're not going to swim in college. You're kind of riding this out. I was like, all right, man. You do you, I guess. As long as you don't infect anybody else in the pool with the attitude, So.
Remember when I coached the age group and the kids would come out of the bathroom, one way to get the other group to start moving a little bit faster and get to the head was you just kind of let them know, it's like, you ever think about like the last thing that's kind of flowing off the swimmer ahead of you, and the first thing that's hitting you in the face is like, maybe you should start leading the lane a little bit, get a little more of the cleaner water versus the on speedo to create like a coffee filter kind of suit where everything might.
Right.
It's
great.
I have one along those veins. I have one final one to read because it's just hot off the presses. Somebody texted me this last night. They showed me, it was a screenshot of a text message, and the swimmer asks, "Is the meeting tonight the normal Zoom code?" And then the coach responds, "Yes." And the next text message from the swimmer is, "I don't think I'm going to be returning next year. So I apologize for any inconvenience this causes." That was the swimmer quitting the team. When's the Zoom? And oh yes, P.S. I quit. I'm sorry for any inconvenience I may cause you.
I like it. That was like recruiting in college, where it'd be like, they send you this huge paragraph. It's like
Right.
It's like the recipe ads now, where you're like,
right, where you have to listen to their whole story about
Yeah.
how they came to the recipe just to get the recipe. Like
Exactly. And the same thing, like, I came to this decision, like skim. No, that's all you had to say. We're okay. I quit. Done. I like to the point. Move on. We've got shit to do. That's awesome.
All right. Well, we've all got stuff to do. Let's get to the end of this podcast and give our parting shots, a la the sports reporters. Joel, I'm going to let you go first.
Oh man, I always come up with better stuff like 10 minutes after this, instead of my rambling kind of mess.
Yep.
But again,
You do.
The idea, again, with the whole combined program, just again, you wonder how many models are working, but again, it doesn't really matter to a lot of athletic directors. I feel very cynical. So I like talking to you guys a lot about this, because it's not about working or not working. It's about basically how much the AD wants to deal with a lot of this other stuff, and we can kind of get things into one house. It's more from their end than from our end. You look at what everything was going on in Florida, how well it's working, and now it's like, well, you got 2 separate conference meets, 2 separate NCAA meets. You're going to be gone for over a month. And obviously there's a lot of coaches out there that are excellent at kind of doing this. But you see a lot of the club programs where maybe also the coach will be like, listen, you're going to take, the state level meet. I've got juniors and seniors to worry about. You can't do that now. It's again, you had something that's working. I'm big believers, like, change isn't always good. There's always a downfall on this kind of a thing. And I think I was thinking more of this because we always talk about kind of like coaches trying to, take care of themselves a little bit. There's not a way to do that. And we see that with, again, Tennessee has lost, their sprint coach a long time, sprint coach Asti, who's a linchpin to the program on the men's side, helping with alumni relations, things like that. Again, I don't know why he's leaving, but again, it's like, I've got friends that live in Alaska, they've all got a million reasons that they're going to be leaving real soon. And well, what are the reasons you're staying?
Right.
And so the same thing with a lot of these other jobs where, like, they've got a million reasons why you can leave at any time. And you look at some really great coaches now that again, if they're great at coaching, they're figuring out they're probably pretty good at a lot of different things. For me, that's not, of course, the case. Because the skill set I had of being able to determine how many pizzas will feed a bus of 56 just doesn't play out in the real world like I thought it would, I guess. So, yeah.
Right. Well, you could open a pizza place. I mean, do some catering.
And that sounds like work.
I will offer one correction to that rant, and that is the SEC. I mean, they did have split conference meets this year, but typically they have a combined conference meet. So, it's only 3 weeks, Joel, not a whole month.
There we go. I would have taken that. Yeah. Because, wasn't offered. Yeah.
Eric, what you got?
Them, yeah.
Oh, there is some bias to my little spiel here, but because it does happen to revolve around a new Speedo athlete.
Do it. Free Speedo ad right here.
Yeah. No, it's a shout out to Cody Miller. If you don't follow him on YouTube or at least see some of his stuff, it's some really great information. He does take it to another level that I think can be very beneficial to a coach and to athletes. So he was down in Florida at a massive invite of gold and silver medal USA clubs, and he didn't have a great meet. And he talked about the detail of his 100 breaststroke within that video, and I think it does a good service to athletes in terms of ownership, and to coaches to be able to share that somebody who's doing this for a living or whatever is still making mistakes, but then owning up to them and then trying to correct them in the future. So if you're looking for something to show your athletes, coaches, and you don't already follow Cody Miller's YouTube channel, give it a look. He does share some of the things that he's doing well or not doing well, and just being really kind of an open book with the idea of educating his audience to the ins and outs of things, because he was dealing with an outdoor pool and not sighting walls well and not taking advantage of his warm-up times in the right way. Furthermore, I'm hoping that we're seeing something like this be the beginning of it all for swimmers, because he's monetizing his abilities in a way that is potentially sustainable. Nobody else right now really has this kind of YouTube or Instagram presence, and a lot of athletes looking to be professionals, trying to build a brand to live off of this sport, really are gonna have to take notice of how it's being done, how he's doing it, and then reaching out to an athlete like Cody and finding out how he's doing it all. Because if he's doing all his own editing and getting all this content and putting it all together, it's a ton of work. It's a ton of work to be able to sustain yourself as an athlete. And hopefully we see more of it, because there is some really engaging stuff that kids need to see, that need to know, like, this is what it takes to be at this level. So
yep.
It'll be interesting too with NCAA rule changes with images and likenesses. Athletes, capture some of the income. As a college athlete now, again, if you've got a full scholarship, not that you're, living high off the hog there, but again, all of a sudden you can start to generate a little bit of income coming in, because these kids are so tech savvy and obviously much better as we are.
And eat a meal on Sunday.
Yeah, exactly. It'll be interesting again to see how many kind of leverage this into something else, leading outside, and especially with the swimming community kind of, in a sense, willing to sustain itself on that kind of media content.
Yep. All right. My parting shot, I referenced it up at the top of this. And, as long as we're all putting our biases on the table, I consider Garrett McCaffrey to be a friend of mine. He's somebody that I talk to about coaching, about life, about spouses, about kids. So somebody that's really close to me. And yesterday it was announced that he is resigning as head coach of Phoenix Swim Club. And I think overall Garrett's got some good things coming for him in life. I don't really want to talk about that. I want to talk about the article that Swimming World magazine wrote about it. And I'm going to read from it a little bit here, because to call it an article is perhaps the biggest disservice to journalism I could do. And the fact that this so-called article is not even credited to a writer, but it says by Swimming World editorial team. You can see why, because of the incredible hatchet job that it is. The article starts pretty innocuously. It says Garrett stepped down, says he's been working there for 9 years. It gives some of his bio. Then it says in the second paragraph, with no head coaching experience, he was given the leadership role at PSC when it was left vacant by Coley Stickles, who left in 2012 to go on to coach Olympic athletes at Canyons Aquatic Club and most recently Alabama University. Okay, so that's your first clue as to what kind of article this is. It talks about the team merging, talks about how they merged with another team and set up 2 different training programs. This other club, Arizona Marlin. It said, the Marlin program embraced traditional training with their long and rich history in producing outstanding young men and women that excel in and out of the pool. McCaffrey chose to embrace the untested theories of USRPT. The split in training methods was a unique experiment in club culture that many in the swimming world thought was doomed from the beginning. Okay. And finally, it ends with this list. And when you get to the end of this list, you're going to know who wrote this article. A number of notable world-class coaches have come through the club's doors, including Dennis Persley, Pierre LaFontaine, former head of Canadian swimming, Eric Hansen, former head coach of Arizona University, Ray Lewis, now head coach of Indiana, Dave Gibson, now at Fort Lauderdale, Rorik Fink, now coaching in Texas, Mike Bottom, now head coach at University of Michigan, and Brent Rutemiller, publisher of Swimming World magazine and CEO of the International Swimming Hall of Fame. So I have this to say to Brent Rutemiller, who is a person I've known for about 13 years. Brent, you never fail to disappoint with your absolute cowardice. And I think it shows how small of a person you are that 9 years after Garrett left, where, by the way, he did an amazing job for you and lended so much credibility to what you were doing at Swimming World, you still hold enough of a grudge that you want to write this hatchet job on him. And it appears the whole point of this article was to name yourself as a legendary coach. I'm fairly certain you're the only person in the world that considers yourself a world-renowned coach. So congratulations about that. Happy trails to Garrett. Brent.
Love you, Garrett.
You know how I feel about you. And that was the swim brief for this week. Thank you guys so much for listening. Thank you guys, Erik and Joel, for joining. And we'll see you next week.
See ya.
Thanks, Chris.